We were best friends. Until I learned her secret. You know that friend who knows every absurd, mortifying thing you've ever done, every secret whispered in the dark, every tear shed at 2 a.m.? For me, that friend was Emily. From the moment we met, she became the keeper of my most vulnerable confessions, and I, harborer of her shattered dreams, became hers. I remember the first time our worlds collided. It was the second week of freshman year, raining so hard the campus looked like a soggy watercolor. I was hunched under an umbrella too small for both me and a backpack stuffed with textbooks I barely understood. She barreled around the corner, drenched but defiant, sliding into the seat beside me in the lecture hall. Without a word, she claimed the desk, dripped onto my notes, and flashed a grin that said, "I don't care." I, on the other hand, was the quiet type, the one who answered questions with sarcasm, who hid behind headphones in the cafeteria, who scribbled in notebooks instead of speaking up. Yet her noise didn't annoy me, it intrigued me. She had the fearless confidence I lacked. I had the steady calm she lacked. Somehow, in a universe that kept reminding us how different we were, we clicked. 2 weeks later, on a stretch of sidewalk under the flicker of a street lamp, we made our pact. She dug her hands in her pockets, tilted her chin like a queen preparing for war, and said, "No matter what happens, failures, heartbreaks, yes, even the time I plaster your dorm door with photos of that embarrassing bar jump video, you've got my back. Deal?" I laughed at the absurdity of it, at the gravity she attached to what was, in reality, college juvenile shenanigans. But then I said, "Deal." For years, that simple promise carried us through every milestone and meltdown. When I bombed my first biology exam and hid in the library until she staged a rescue with coffee and chocolate chip cookies. When she'd cradle me in her arms during job rejections, whispering conspiracies about how the hiring manager must have been an alien who couldn't handle my brilliance. When late-night phone calls stretched into sunrise, dissecting every interaction with a boy we both knew was wrong. When she painted my nails neon green before my first date, and I returned the favor by reading 5 self-help books in a week to coach her through her breakup. We were inseparable, an invincible force field against every blow life delivered. She was my sister from another mister, and I believed we were bulletproof. But the thing about pacts, especially the ones you make under the glow of street lamps and over hastily microwaved ramen, is that they can fray at the edges, unraveling in ways you never see coming. It began with a subtle shift. Emily's calls arrived later. Her texts went unanswered when delivered. Our Sunday hikes turned into solitary wanderings where I'd circle the same trail, waiting for her to catch up. I chalked it up to her new internship, a whirlwind of deadlines, client meetings, and after-work drinks that stretched into the small hours. Then came the invitations I never received. The birthday brunch at that trendy cafe, her entire squad was there, except me. The impromptu road trip she and I had planned months ago, yet the group chat was buzzing about logistics, and my name was nowhere to be found. I confronted her with laughter, like I always did when things felt off. "You're ghosting me," I had teased over drinks one Friday night. She offered a half-smile, eyes darting away. "Sorry, I've been crazy busy." Busy. A word that began to taste bitter on my tongue. Our next real conversation happened in the cramped back room of an open mic poetry slam. She was on stage, reciting lines dark and jagged, fragments of heartbreak that felt too raw to be hers. Afterward, we squeezed into a booth. The neon sign above us blinked open, but I felt more closed off than I had in months. "What's going on?" I asked, voice low so only she could hear. She stared at her trembling fingers, tracing unseen patterns on the wooden table. "I can't tell you," she whispered. "Not yet." Her gaze met mine, and for a second, I saw fear there, something I'd never seen in Emily before. She was the brave one. She was the fearless roar in a soprano. I typed back, fingers shaking, "Of course." I waited for her reply, watched the clock tick past midnight. The silence that followed was louder than any words. I should have been angry. I should have raged at her for leaving me in the dark. But all I felt was a strange pull, a need to dive deeper, to rescue whatever frightened her so much that she'd hide behind riddles and redacted secrets. So I rose before dawn, slipped my phone into my pocket, and walked out into the stillness. Somewhere, in the haze of our shared past and uncertain future, Emily was waiting. And I promised myself I wouldn't turn back until I found her truth. As I reached the empty street, I took one last look at the glowing inbox on my phone. No new messages. No roadmap. Just the echo of a friendship on the brink. But I still had that pact. No matter what happens, we've got each other's backs. Even if I had to walk through fire to prove it. Things started shifting about a year ago, like a slow tremor you feel before an earthquake. Emily met Ryan at a rooftop party, bronze skin, easy laugh, the kind of guy who leaned in too close when he talked, tracing her hair behind her ear with a possessive grin. I remember how excited she was, her voice higher, her texts peppered with heart emojis, her eyes sparkling when she described their conversations. At first, I was genuinely happy for her. I thought she'd found someone who matched her energy, someone brave enough to ride her lightning storm. Then the cancellations began. First, it was small, a brunch on Sunday, a movie night midway through the week. "I'm so sorry," she'd say, voice crackling with a sweetness I'd never heard before. He surprised me with tickets. And I'd smile, okay with it, because new love deserves some selfish space. But those surprises piled up, like one ghostly whisper after another. Texts went unanswered for hours, even days. When she did reply, it felt clipped, distant. "Busy tonight, hope you're good. Can't make it this time, rain check?" She'd always promise a rain check, yet I never saw the blue skies of her free time again. Each time we finally met, something was off. Maybe it was the way she'd drift in through the cafe door, her shoulders hunched, eyes darting to the entrance every few seconds as if expecting someone, him, to pop up. She'd laugh at my jokes, but the laughter had an edge, like a cracked record. She sipped her latte without looking at me, then pushed it away as though its warmth reminded her of guilt. Over time, the tension hardened between us like a scab refusing to heal. One evening, I mentioned a job interview I had coming up. Instead of her usual pep talk, she leaned back in her chair, lips pursed, and murmured, "Good luck, though you know you'll find something eventually." Not quite encouragement. More like prophecy. Then the whispers started. I was at Mark's barbecue, our mutual friend who'd been there since freshman year, when he sidled up to me with an uncomfortable look. "Hey," he said, voice low. "I don't want to cause drama, but I overheard something about you. Emily's been saying some interesting things." He hesitated. "Nothing confirmed, but you might want to check in with her." My stomach flipped. That night I replayed every conversation we'd had in the past 6 months. Had she been throwing shade? Did she blame me for something? Or was she venting secrets I never meant to share? When I confronted her, she laughed it off as though I'd suggested Bigfoot was babysitting her cat. We were on her apartment balcony, overlooking the city's orange glow. I asked, "Emily, is there something you want to tell me?" She shrugged, tucking her hair behind one ear. "People love drama. Ignore them. You know me, I'd never talk behind your back." But when I looked into her eyes, I saw a flicker of fear. Was it guilt? Defiance? I couldn't tell, because she'd switched back to being her sunny self, too quickly, too perfectly. Still, my gut screamed otherwise. So I started paying closer attention, cataloging every odd behavior. One night, I caught Ryan alone at a local dive bar. He looked startled when I approached, as though he'd hoped I'd stay hidden in our shared past. I didn't bite, I just asked how Emily was doing. He stared at me a moment too long. "She's good," he said, then smiled thinly. "She's happy." I could almost hear the unspoken, "but happy with me, not you." When I pressed for more, he shrugged. "She's a bit different these days." Then he excused himself, melting into the crowd like a ghost slipping through a crack in reality. The next day, I decided to stop waiting for Emily to come clean. I dove into conversations with our circle, reaching out to old friends, piecing together fragments. A pattern emerged. Whenever Emily felt threatened, by jobs, by my successes, she'd spiral, lashing out in hushed conversation. She'd made our bond a shield for her own insecurities, turning me into the villain in her private narratives. Armed with this knowledge, I drafted a message to Emily. I know things have changed. I heard things, hurtful things, and I need to understand why. I hovered over send 4 minutes, heart pounding. I wanted honesty. I wanted confrontation. I wanted to salvage what we had. Finally, I hit send. Her reply came almost immediately. I'm sorry. I can't talk about this right now. 3 words that felt like a slammed door. I stared at the screen, realizing I was standing at a precipice. To uncover the full truth, I'd have to risk exposing wounds I'd tried to forget. I'd have to be braver than I'd ever been when comforting her, when side by side we'd faced our college anxieties. Now, I was alone facing the shadow she'd cast across our friendship. And yet, despite the uncertainty, I couldn't turn back. Because beneath the distance, beneath the whispers, I still believed in the Emily who once believed in me. I pocketed my phone, drew in a breath, and stepped out into the golden afternoon light. Somewhere beyond these walls, Emily was waiting, guarded, silent, perhaps even afraid. But I was coming for her story. I'd push through every wall she erected until I found the truth, no matter how painful. After all, we had a pact. No matter what happens, we've got each other's backs. And I intended to prove it. The truth tore itself apart under strobing lights and bass so heavy it felt like my ribs were rattling. It was a friend's birthday bash, one of those open invite affairs where everyone you know crams into a loft with mismatched furniture and a DJ spinning remixes of songs you half love. I'd slipped in quietly, hoping to corner Emily, to force whatever confession out of her. But as soon as I crossed the threshold, I saw her, a spotlight in the crowd, hair shimmering under neon, laughter spilling out of her like a weapon. She wasn't alone. Ryan hovered beside her, arms slung possessively around her shoulders, grinning like he'd won some twisted lottery. Surrounding them was a ring of people, mutual classmates, college acquaintances, even a few co-workers, leaning in to hear Emily's every word. And she was speaking. At first I couldn't catch the thread. Music thumped, glasses clinked, conversations braided together. Then I heard it, my name. You remember what happened with her ex during spring break? Emily was saying, voice so light it felt like a punch in the gut. She ended up. A burst of laughter from the circle punctured my ears. I edged closer, and the snippets came faster. He thought he was going to propose, and she. Does she really think anyone believes that? Poor guy walked out crying. Secret after secret spilled across that dusty wooden floor, secrets I'd only ever entrusted to Emily's quiet sympathy. My first heartbreak, the time I'd been so broke I sold my textbooks back early, the panic attack I'd hidden after my internship rejection. Each detail ripped from our vault and paraded in front of half the city. My heartbeat thundered. My face burned. My throat tightened so badly I could barely breathe. I remembered telling Emily every raw thought during sleepless nights, trusting her to be my confidant. Now she was the ringmaster, pushing me through the gauntlet of her punchlines. For a moment, everything slowed. The music dimmed to a distant hum. Ryan's laugh sounded hollow. Even the flicker of the neon sign above the DJ booth stuttered in time with my racing pulse. I remember thinking, no. This isn't real. My legs felt like lead as I wove around the partygoers, every pair of eyes suddenly fixed on me. I heard a collective intake of breath, the thrill of witnessing a live betrayal. Emily caught sight of me the instant I burst through her circle. Her smile froze mid-laugh, half amusement, half shock. Her eyes widened, but she didn't move toward me. Instead, she took a small step back and raised her cup, as though toasting my arrival. Then I didn't wait for an apology, for an explanation, for anything at all. I spun on my heel and slashed through the crowd, ignoring the arms that grazed my shoulders in confusion. I emerged onto the fire escape, the cold night air slapping my face. Pulling my phone from my pocket, I stood there, shaking under the dim glow of a single bulb. The muffled bass of the party seemed to recede, leaving only my own ragged breathing. I didn't cry until I was halfway home. Then the dam broke. Tears stung my eyes, hot and furious, each one a testament to trust shattered. I replayed every moment I'd spent with her, the laughter, the promises, the midnight vows of always and forever. And now I couldn't even recognize the woman who'd once been my sanctuary. The next morning, my phone buzzed with notifications, texts of concern from friends who'd seen me storm out, questions I couldn't answer without unraveling my dignity. Then I saw it, Emily's Instagram story. A blurry selfie of her and Ryan, champagne flutes raised, their lips curved in smug smiles. Below it, her caption in stark white font, "Loyalty is overrated." I stared at the screen, the taunt burning brighter than any sunrise. Loyalty is overrated. The words dug into my chest, gouging out the space where love and friendship once lived. That was the moment something inside me snapped. The pact we'd made under a shaky street lamp, no matter what happens, we've got each other's backs, had turned into a cruel joke. She'd weaponized our secrets, used my vulnerability for sport, and then thrown it back in my face for the world to see. I dropped my phone onto the bed and rushed to the mirror. I pressed my palms against my temples, willing the pounding to stop. For minutes I stood there, breathing in and out, weighing my next move. Could I forgive her? Could I confront her in daylight, peel back the layers of betrayal to find the Emily I once knew? Or was that girl gone forever, replaced by someone who thrived on humiliation? My reflection stared back, eyes red-rimmed, jaw clenched. I saw a choice laid out before me: retreat into the shadow of what was, or step forward into a new truth, however painful. I clenched my fists, feeling the sting of tears still damp on my cheeks. Yes, I'd been humiliated. Yes, I'd been betrayed. But beneath the pain, a spark ignited, the same spark that had driven me through college struggles, job rejections, heartbreaks. If I was going to emerge from this, I would have to claim my power back, face Emily, demand answers, and decide whether our pact meant anything at all. And so I did. I picked up my phone, thumb hovering over the contact marked Emily. My chest still ached, but my voice had steadied. I tapped her name and waited for the call to connect. "Emily," I said when she answered, "we need to talk." My words were simple, but they carried every unspoken question, every hurt, every flicker of hope that our story hadn't ended on that party rooftop. And maybe, just maybe, that call would be the first step toward finding out who she really was, and who I was without her. For weeks, I wrestled with myself. My chest felt like a drumbeat. Every time I thought of confronting Emily, my heart pounded louder. I imagined scenarios: storming into her apartment, voice raw from shouting, collapsing in tears on her living room floor, ripping at every memory I had with her as if tearing pages from my soul. But each time I teetered on the edge, one thought pulled me back: why give her that power? Why let her dictate how I felt, how I reacted? So I built walls instead. I unfollowed her on every platform, blocked her number with surgical precision, and told myself that cutting her out would be the final act of self-preservation. I moved on, or at least that was the story I clung to. I signed up for early morning yoga classes, downloaded productivity apps, even scheduled a solo weekend retreat in the mountains. In the daylight, I believed I was healing. One night, a little past midnight, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar name: Ryan. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over open. My pulse jolted, memories of party lights and whispered rumors flooded back. I considered ignoring it. After all, Emily and I were over, why get dragged into her orbit again? But something made me tap his name. His message was short and jagged, like glass underfoot. "We need to talk. I found out everything. Can you meet tomorrow?" No pleasantries. No check-ins. Just the raw, urgent plea of someone who'd been blindsided. The next evening, I met Ryan at a quiet corner table in the same cafe where Emily and I used to plot our futures over lattes. He looked hollow, eyes red, shoulders slumped under the weight of betrayal. For a moment, I saw the boy I met last year, warm smile, easy laugh, the type who believed in fairy tale endings. Now he looked like someone who'd had the rug yanked from under his world. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos, screenshots, even receipts, proof of Emily's betrayals. A series of late-night texts with her roommate's boyfriend, professing, "I can't stop thinking about you." Blurry snapshots of clandestine dinners in dimly lit bars with a photographer from her internship. A confirmation email from a hotel booking, Emily's name paired with yet another acquaintance. His voice wavered as he explained that he'd confronted her, only to be gaslit with excuses, stress, confusion. It meant nothing. But he'd found more evidence, an elevator security tape showing more than just innocent smiles, and his world collapsed there on the doormat of her apartment. The fallout was spectacular. In less than 24 hours, Emily's public persona shattered. Ryan posted a thread detailing every discovery, accompanied by screenshots and timestamped evidence. The thread climbed through social feeds, gathering comments like wildfire. Friends took sides. Some defended Emily, others called her out. Mutual acquaintances confessed they'd suspected something but stayed silent. Strangers weighed in, turning a private heartbreak into a social media spectacle. Within hours, Emily's betrayal was trending in our city. News outlets picked it up, interviewing ex-friends and baristas. She went from fearless and loud to defensive and frantic, her Instagram stories replaced by apologies that rang hollow. Her phone number exploded with messages, some sympathetic, many vicious. Throughout it all, I stayed silent. I didn't comment, I didn't like, I didn't share. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, to post a single line, "I told you so." But another part, wiser, perhaps, realized I had nothing to gain by dragging her through the mud. I'd already cut her out, and I wasn't going to let her humiliation define me. Finding peace. That night, for the first time in months, my eyelids felt heavy with real sleepiness, not the exhaustion born of restless anxiety. I crawled into bed, phone tucked far from reach, and let the darkness cradle me. When I woke the next morning, there was a calm I hadn't known since before Emily's betrayal. No thunderous heartbeats. No spirals of what if. Just the gentle reminder that life could move forward, beyond deceit, beyond hurt. I realized healing isn't about blocking one person, it's about reclaiming your narrative. By stepping out of Emily's shadow, by refusing to wield her secrets as weapons, I discovered an inner strength I didn't know I had. My world wasn't built on her loyalty, it was built on my own resilience. What happens next? I'm still processing everything. There are days I revisit the betrayal, wondering how someone I loved could become a stranger. I've started journaling again, not to replay old wounds, but to record new chapters, solo hikes, new friendships, the occasional blind date that I approach with cautious optimism. I've blocked Emily permanently, but I find myself reflecting on forgiveness. Maybe one day I'll learn to let go entirely and wish her well. For now, though, I'm content with this loud, messy breakup, because it marks the moment I finally stopped being her confidant and started being my own champion. What would you do in my shoes? Have you ever experienced a betrayal that forced you to rebuild your identity? Let's dive into healing strategies or ways to protect your emotional well-being when friendships implode. That night, for the first time in months, my eyelids felt heavy with real sleepiness, not the exhaustion born of restless anxiety. I crawled into bed, phone tucked far from reach, and let the darkness cradle me. When I woke the next morning, there was a calm I hadn't known since before Emily's betrayal. No thunderous heartbeats. No spirals of what if. Just the gentle reminder that life could move forward, beyond deceit, beyond hurt. I realized healing isn't about blocking one person, it's about reclaiming your narrative. By stepping out of Emily's shadow, by refusing to wield her secrets as weapons, I discovered an inner strength I didn't know I had. My world wasn't built on her loyalty, it was built on my own resilience. What happens next? I'm still processing everything. There are days I revisit the betrayal, wondering how someone I loved could become a stranger. I've started journaling again, not to replay old wounds, but to record new chapters, solo hikes, new friendships, the occasional blind date that I approach with cautious optimism. I blocked Emily permanently, but I find myself reflecting on forgiveness. Maybe one day I'll learn to let go entirely and wish her well. For now, though, I'm content with this loud, messy breakup, because it marks the moment I finally stopped being her confidant and started being my own champion. Do I feel guilty? Sometimes. Late at night, when the city's hum fades into silence, I lie awake wondering if I should have tried harder, called her one more time, demanded an explanation, begged her not to share my secrets with strangers. Memory drifts me back to the fluorescent glow of dorm room study sessions, the warmth of her scarf around my neck on a winter morning, the way our laughter echoed down empty hallways. Those moments still ache, like half-forgotten dreams slipping through my fingers. I miss her. Honestly, yeah. We had good times, road trips with the windows down, sing-alongs in the back seat, whispered midnight conspiracies about our futures. She was the spark to my fuse, the one who coaxed me out of my shell with reckless dares and contagious enthusiasm. In my darker moments, I still reach for the phone to text her, to share a triumph or a minor disaster. But the only response these days is the cold silence of a closed chapter. At the heart of friendship lies trust. We promised each other loyalty long before either of us knew what that word truly meant. We thought it was about sticking around for the victories and the celebrations. What we didn't realize was how heavy that word could be when pushed to its limits. Friends don't humiliate each other. Friends don't weaponize your vulnerabilities. When she shared my deepest fears with a jeering audience, she tore the fabric of our bond beyond repair. I kept replaying her words in my head, hoping they'd lose their sting. Instead, they echoed louder each time I closed my eyes. I'd always believed loyalty was reciprocal, you give it freely, and it comes back to you in equal measure. Her betrayal taught me that some people wear loyalty like a mask, slipping it on when it suits them and discarding it the moment they crave attention or control. In the weeks after the fallout, I questioned everything. How do you measure loyalty? Is it the number of years you've known someone, or the depth of honesty between you? Does it survive even when temptation knocks? I found clarity in unexpected places, morning jogs along quiet streets, pages of a dog-eared journal, conversations with new friends who hadn't known me before the betrayal. Loyalty isn't about how long you've known someone. It's about how they treat you when no one's watching. It shows up in small acts. Respecting your confidence, even when spilling secrets would earn them laughter or applause.